Good morning, United States of America. I want to welcome you to the first podcast for Almost Daily Views from the Border with Joseph Williams Jr. I'm your host, Joseph Williams Jr. I'm sure those of you who are tuning in are thinking to yourself, what will this program have to offer? Well, this is simply an everyday guy looking at our political arena. You see, our current state of politics is simply a gladiatorial death match of ideas. And we are sitting in the stands watching it all go down. You know, I wasn't too much into politics when I was younger. Family didn't stress it. Didn't get to vote until later on in life. You know, after being married, me and my wife would be sitting in the TV, sitting watching television, and she would ask me, you know, why would you never vote? Why you never vote? And I says, well, the family never stressed it. But as you get older in life, you begin to see that the world out there, well, it's very important to be engaged. So we would sit around and talk politics and stuff. And she would keep asking me, why you never voted? Why? You know, we are exchanging ideas on what the political world is. And by not voting, you're not engaging in it and looking to incite change. Well, she says, if you got to keep complaining about what's going on in the world, then you need to get out and vote. If not, quiet. So I went out there, signed up to vote, registered. And when doing that, I was able to cast my first vote for Barack Obama and becoming the President of the United States. And it felt good. It was a good thing. I felt that I was contributing to what's going on in the political world out there. So I got to tell you, I've been voting ever since. Presidential, midterms, local, doing my civic duty and what's been afforded to me by this country to let the will of the people be heard. You know, it was a good thing. It was a good thing, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I'm now engaged in it. And I got to tell you, I really wished I started long ago when I was younger. You know, that one vote, they say, makes a difference and a lot. And lately, with politics going on the way it is, every single vote does count. That's just the way I see it now. Because that's how we steer this great ship of democracy, the United States of America, to go to where we feel it needs to go. So, if you're listening and you haven't voted in years, get out there for the next election. If you never have registered, get out there and register and make something happen. Okay? I want us to get started. So with this view, I want us to start with the foundation of what our government is, the principles that allowed us to create this democracy, to forge a new nation. All right. So I figured that we'll first read through this very important document, which happens to be the foundation for our country. The direction to making sure that we are operating like we're supposed to. Not like some of us that pulls out a new piece of furniture and say we know how to put it together just by looking at the picture on the box. No, we got to read through it so you can understand it. So you can see where it is that you need to get to in order to be successful in this world. So, we're going to read through the Constitution. And when we get started, let's read through the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, which states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. You know, when I read this, I can't help but think that when this was written, slavery was legal in all 13 colonies. And when I look at what is going on today, I can see where this feeling of ownership has come from. When they say in the preamble that all men are created equal, they meant white-skinned people are equal. The indigenous Indians and the African slaves, because they weren't American, they're African slaves, which have dark skins, are not considered as their equal in their eyes. Those that wrote this document, they gathered together to create this new country in which they will govern with this new democracy, the great experiment, a government for the people, by the people. The African slaves were not considered people, but property. So when you listen to President Trump talk about immigration issues of our country, you actually feel the resentment he is projecting onto us. So this is something we'll talk about on a later date. And it hurts. It really does hurt. Because for so long, this country has morphed into something greater than itself than they thought it would be. And to see it torn apart like that, like this way it is now, is very, very sad. Well, let's continue. Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. Very simple and straightforward. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in which state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors for the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and have been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state which he shall be chosen. Representatives that direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may include within the Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons. Free persons. Including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and with every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative. And until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill these vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers, and shall have a sole power of impeachment. So the House of Representatives have the sole power of impeachment. Good to know, right? Very good to know. Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they have assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the second class of the expiration of the 4th year, and the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by registration or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall not have a vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their officers and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, and when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be an oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So, the legislature do the impeachment, and the senators, the Senate, holds the trial for the president. Good to know. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit on the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subjected to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to the law. Wow. So, we move on. Very enlightening stuff when you read through these things. Very good, very good. Section 4. The times, place, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulation, except as to the place of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall pass a law appointing a different day. Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the audience of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceeding, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. Very interesting. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, expecting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered into the journal. Neither house during the sessions of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the 2 houses shall be sitting. Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive the compensation for their services, to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the sessions of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. Curious. Very interesting. No senator or representative shall, during a time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time. And no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of their house during this continuance in office. Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on amendments as on other bills. Every bill which have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it. If not, he shall return it with his objections to the House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered into the journal of each house respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law. In like manner, if he has signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevented its return, in which case it shall not be a law. This 35-day shutdown should have never happened. We shouldn't have put politics before country, before the people. Congress' job is to pass laws. The president can sign or veto them into law. But if knowing that these things are right and should be followed through, then Congress should not have to worry about their elections, which is 2 years out, but look for the benefit of what the country needs. And by holding up government because of a wall, that's wrong. That is wrong. Congress should have went back, and if this is what they wanted to pass, to keep the government open, then they should have revoted with the majority, veto-proof majority in both houses to tell the president that these laws have to be passed. The continuation of government must be continued. And the conversations and debates for the wall that he wants, well, that would be considered moving forward, so that we would not have to subjugate, hold hostage the workers of the federal government for political purposes. As we continue, every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the United States, and before the same shall take effect, it shall be approved by him, or, being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. So, Section 8. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excise, to pay the debt and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Wow, let me read that again. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excise, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excise shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states, and with the Indian tribes. To establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. To coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standards of weights and measures. To provide for the punishment of the counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. To establish post offices and post roads. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive rights of their respective writings and discoveries. To constitute tribunals inferior to this Supreme Court. To define and publish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the laws of nations. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, to make rules concerning captures on land and water. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to the use shall be for the longer term than 2 years. To provide and maintain a navy, to make rules of the government and regulations of the land and the naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insecurities and repel invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such parts of them as may be employed by the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by concession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erections of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foreign powers, and all other powers vested in this Constitution, in the government of the United States, or in any department thereof. Section 9. The migration or importation of such person as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. No bill of return or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitalization or other direct tax shall be laid, unless the proportion of the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obligated to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or appraisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill to attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any impost or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state or imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as it will not admit or delay. All right. Interesting reading so far, Well, it gets even better because now we're going into the executive power of the President of the United States. So, here we are with Article 2 of the Constitution, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years and, together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislator thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representatives or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective state and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for the President. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the President. But in choosing the President, The vote shall be taken by the Senate, the representation from each state having one vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the state, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes. Each day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible to the office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In case of the removal of the president from office, or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve to the vice president. And the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed, or the president shall be elected. The president shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. Now, the part coming up is the oath of office, which is very, very important, because I believe these words should provide a roadmap for the president in the performance of his job. It's his understanding of his duties for our nation's people. So, when I read through this, I will also mention the names of all the presidents up until today that have held that office, so we can see the importance of their contributions and works as President of the United States. So before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James K. Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Garfield, Chester A. Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, Grover Cleveland again, William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard M. Nixon, Gerald R. Ford, James Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H. W. Bush, William J. Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald J. Trump will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will be the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Each one of these presidents have sworn an oath to this country to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Why would that ever be a question nowadays? So, we continue with Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subjects relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power and grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So, the question, can a sitting president pardon himself? I kind of don't believe that's possible under what I just read. Now, legal scholars, they may say a lot of things and talk to mojo or whatever, but I just got to say, and he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. I think that's pretty self-evident with that statement. No president can pardon himself. Well, I continue. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of department. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions, which shall expire at the end of their next session. Section 3. He shall from time to time give to Congress information of the state of the Union, and recommend to their consideration such measures that he shall judge necessary and expedite. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws are faithfully executed, and shall commission all of the officers of the United States. Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Wow. Let me repeat that again under Section 4 of the Constitution. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanor. Interesting. Very interesting. Article 3 of the Constitution, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under his Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made, or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between the state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same states claiming land under grants in different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministries, and consuls, and those in which the state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction in all other cases before mentioned. The Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as the law and fact, with which exceptions, and under such regulation as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be as such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have the power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainer of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Okay. Article 4, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved in the effect thereof. Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state under the law thereof, escaping into another, shall in consequence of any law, regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party for whom such service or labor may be due. Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the jurisdiction of two or more states, or parts of the state, within the consent of the legislators of the state concerned, as well as of the Congress. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to the prejudices any claims of the United States or of any party or any particular state. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and the application of the legislator or the executive, when the legislator cannot be convened against domestic violence. Article 5 of the Constitution. The Congress, wherein 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislator of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by legislators of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions of 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be valid against the United States under the Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislators, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious tests shall ever be required as a qualification in any office or public trust of the United States. Boy, I am so glad to hear that. So, let me say this again. Senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislators, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. So, when we have the Christian conservatives or any type of religious organization looking to step in and hold certain elected officials or threatening them, their positions, these things shouldn't matter. Each elected official, by their own convictions and what they feel, shouldn't feel emboldened or in fact subjugated by any religious organization, because it shouldn't be in there. It shouldn't be, but it happens to be the separation of church and state. This is where separation of church and state is established. Curious. Very informative. We move on to 7. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. The word "the" being underlined between the 7th and 8th lines of the first page, the word 30 being partly written on the erasure of the 15th line of the first page, the words "is tried" being interlined between the 32nd and 30 lines, the 33rd lines of the first page, and the word "the" being underlined between the 43rd and the 44th lines of the second state. Attested by William Jackson, Secretary. Maybe when I was in school, we did go through this, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, or maybe because of the way I was brought up, that we never really was engaged in the politics of the world. But I do believe that this is something that each and every one of us should read for ourselves. Because we hear on the floor of all our elected leaders, the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the United States. And I'm very much sure that they do read it. And they hold to it. But I swear, I do not believe our president has read it. Because if he has really read it, and this is just the first part, because we have the Bill of Rights coming up, which we'll walk through, and the other articles, the amendments that there is. I truly don't believe the President of the United States today has read any of this. I truly don't believe so. And it's hard to even consider, because those who voted for him really believe that he has the best intention for us in America. You know, he has a habit of talking about Barack Obama. But the thing is that anything that we have had today that's going on right now never happened in the 8 years during Obama. And I am grateful for that. Because the stigma of that, if President Obama had any of what is going on today, the Republicans would be adamantly out there to get rid of him. If they could do it. There are a lot of things there were a lot of good things Barack Obama brought to the United States under his tenure as president. And mind you, there were some things that he did wrong, that I believe if he had done differently, would have changed the course of conversation with him. And a lot of that we can talk about later as we go along. But the president today, I truly don't believe that he really thinks about us. I really believe that he thinks only of himself. And you can hear that in his conversation. Because if you read through this document, this is for the service of the country. This is to what makes this country works. This is just the basics, the foundation. And everything else after that is to build on, to build that magnificent house, to build that magnificent place on the mountain that the world can look up to. Because that's where we are. We are that shining white house on the mountain for everyone to see. The place where everyone wants to go to. Because they believe that the best is there. We believe that our country always was great. We believe our country right now is great. It's just a little tarnished. But I truly believe that we can change that. I truly believe that if we all got out, spit shine, to get all that is clouding everything that we're doing right now, that's happening in this country, she will glow again. We won't be a joke. If only the president could stop saying, my generals. If the president could just stop saying, my military. If the president could just stop saying, my wall. I believe that if he takes my out, and remember that this is our country, I truly believe he might actually start believing in it. I truly believe that. Just start believing. In reading the Constitution, opened my eyes to a lot. Like I said in the beginning, I can see where the fear is out there. That with the immigration of other nations into the United States, how white people are scared. Because for the first time in history of our country, they will start to become the minority and lose control of this nation that historically was created by them. Though built up by slaves, land taken from the Indians. Progress. The changing of ideas. The evolution of where we were to where we are now should not be feared. Because every one of us change as we get older. We start as a new country as a baby. And as we become more knowledgeable and we continue to grow, we don't think like we were back then. We don't believe that we should always stay back there when what we're doing takes us in another direction forward, where progress is the only way for us to become greater than what we were. I believe in this country has so much to offer. And I believe you do too. I want to say thank you for listening to my first podcast. And we do have a lot more to talk about. And if you're interested in reaching out to me, you can email me at dailyviews@aol.com. And yes, I still have an AOL address. And I'm very proud of it. So you can email me or Twitter page. My account is at Dailyviews1 on Twitter. And my Facebook page, Almost Daily Views from the Border with Joe Williams. Like it, share it, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say as well. Good, bad, indifferent. That's what this whole thing is about. Different views from different sections coming together to understand where we are, how we got here, and what we have forward to look forward to. So this is Joe Williams saying thank you and keep looking to the future.